Hey NBA fans, today we'll be looking at the 5 most efficient NBA players of the early 80s. Please subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of these videos for the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s. Hope you enjoy it. So now you're probably asking, how can we rate an NBA player's efficiency? Well, we can use the player efficiency rating developed by ESPN columnist John Hollinger. This rating can show us how efficient an NBA player is each minute they are on the court. John Hollinger uses a mathematical formula that sums up all the positive accomplishments like points, rebounds, and assists, and then subtracts the negative accomplishments like fouls and turnovers, which will then return a per-minute rating of the player's performance. And now, the most efficient NBA players from 1980 to 1985. A few honorable mentions who did not make the list. Michael Jordan, his airness, of course, was only a rookie and had one season under his belt. Nevertheless, it was quite an achievement, being the second most efficient player in the NBA as a rookie, right behind Larry Bird. Another player, Bernard King, who was entering his prime years, ranking the third most efficient player in 1985, right before an injury completely changed the trajectory of his career. And finally, Robert Parrish was in the final years of his prime, right before passing the torch to Larry Bird. He was quite dominant in 1981, where he was the second most efficient player, right behind Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And at number 5, Julius Erving. He was not as dominant in the 80s as he was in the 70s, where he dazzled the audience with his incredible play above the rim. Nicknamed the Doctor, or more precisely Dr. J, he was able to finish no matter where he took off from the floor. In the 70s, he was averaging about 30 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists per game, but in the early 80s, being in the latter part of his NBA career, he saw those numbers drop to about 22 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. These drops did result in a decrease in his efficiency rating. Nevertheless, even in his 30s, he was still able to be a top 5 performer in the NBA with an average efficiency rating of 24.24. Props to the Doctor for being the second most efficient player in 1982 as a 31-year-old. And number 4, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, another player who had his best years behind him back in the 70s, but still a player who managed to perform at an exceptionally high level in the early 80s with his unstoppable sky hook. He would hold the ball up so high that no defender had any chance of reaching it. Considered by some to be the GOAT of the 70s, Kareem averaged 32 points, 16 rebounds, and 5 assists per game at that time. However, in the early 80s, those averages dropped to 22 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 assists, resulting in a decrease in his efficiency rating. Nevertheless, even well into his mid to late 30s, he was still able to be a top 5 player in the NBA with an average efficiency rating of 23.85, and in 1981, at the age of 33, this dominant center was the most efficient player of that NBA season. And number 3, Adrian Dantley, entering his prime at the age of 25 and playing for a Jazz team that desperately needed some star power. Dantley, nicknamed the Teacher, was able to put the slogan "You reach, I teach" to good use. He was known for his ISO-heavy offense, something that James Harden does so well nowadays. He might even have been Harden's favorite player growing up, who knows. In 3 seasons in the early 80s, Dantley was such a force that he averaged 30 points, 6 rebounds, and 3 assists per game. This small forward was the definition of a go-getter, can get a bucket at will, all on his own. He was so dominant that he became the league's most efficient player in the 83-84 season, with a rating of 24.64. And overall, in the 3 seasons that he did make the top 5, he had an efficiency rating of 24.36. That places him at number 3. And number 2, Larry Bird, the one who in tandem with Magic had to come in and save the NBA due to low ticket sales. Larry Legend came at a time when the NBA had no real superstars, as Kareem and Julius aged and Wilt, Russell, and West were long gone. Not only did he arrive at the perfect time, but he also dazzled with his incredible passing, gritty defense, and lethal shooting ability. In addition, along with Magic, he made the game fun to watch again. And at 28 years of age, this competitive trash talker became the most efficient player in the 84 and 85 NBA season. His averages of 29 points, 10 rebounds, and 6 assists were enough to place him at the top of the NBA with an efficiency rating of 26.54 and with an overall average PER rating of 24.95, placing him in second. And at number 1, Moses Malone, also known as the chairman of the boards. This rebounding machine might not have dazzled on the court like other players, but he did his job of rebounding and putbacks with incredible efficiency. He was good at positioning at both the offensive and defensive ends of the court, that he averaged 7 offensive rebounds and 8 defensive rebounds a night. On top of that, he averaged 31 points per game and 42 minutes of play in the 1982 NBA season. Being the most efficient player in the 1982 NBA season, the 76ers acquired him in a trade to pair him up with Julius Erving for the 83 NBA season. And playing with the doctor himself, Moses Malone, at the age of 27, still managed to be the most efficient NBA player for a second season in a row, while playing alongside a Hall of Famer like Julius Erving. And in the 3 seasons that he did make the top 5, he was number 1 in 1982 and 1983 with a PER rating of 26.77 and 25.12, leading to an average efficiency rating of 25.66. Now, a final recap of the top 5 most efficient players from 1980 to 1985. Some of you might be asking, how could I place Adrian Dantley and Moses Malone above Kareem Abdul-Jabbar and Julius Erving? Remember, this is for the efficiency ratings of other players from 1980 to 1985. As you can see, Julius Erving was never the top ranked player in terms of efficiency, so that is why he got the 5th spot. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar did become the most efficient player in the first year, 1981, but then he was 5th, 4th, and 5th again. He had a lower average PR rating compared to Dantley. That is why Dantley was 3rd and Kareem was 4th. And finally, Moses Malone and Larry Bird. As you can see, Moses Malone was the most efficient player 2 years in a row, whereas Larry Bird only made it once, and he had a better average PR rating. If you like this video, please hit the like button and subscribe to our channel In-trist, and also keep a lookout for similar NBA content about the 90s, 2000s, and 2010s in the coming week.